Ambassador Andrew Probyn from the ABC, thank you very much for having us today. I note that you echoed the philosophy of Xi Jinping, where you talked about a socialist system with Chinese characteristics. China is, as you have talked about, developing very, very quickly, a very sizable global nation with great power. How is it that a country of your size, of your influence, can lock up to 1 million people, Uyghurs and other ethnic minorities, in areas in Xinjiang? What justification is there for this? And do you understand why the rest of the world looks upon the treatment of the Uyghurs and other minorities in Xinjiang province with horror?
Thank you. Firstly, I would say the allegations or the claims that you said 1 million weeks and intention is actually fake news. And in the past 65 years or more, and China's policy, the government's policy, Xinjiang's economic and social development have made huge progress. And the freedom of religious belief and the rights of all ethnic groups in Xinjiang have been promoted and protected. Economically, I think in 2017, the GDP of the region for the first time reached 1,000 billion RMB, and further increased the next year, in 2018, which reached 1,200 billion. And in Xinjiang, you may know, I don't know whether you know it or not, there are more than 20,000 mosques. And 29,000 Islamic clerical personnel. And there are also more than 100 Islamic associations and 10 Islamic colleges. And in the past, so far, recent years, more than 50,000 Muslims, they went to Mecca, Saudi Arabia, on the pilgrimages.
Ambassador, I don't want to interrupt.
But let me finish. And in 2018, there are more than 150 million visitors or tourists from both domestic and overseas. And with regard to, you may also know, or let you know, I think before I further go into the details, I'd like to, invite you to watch a short video, 5 minutes, about the violent situation, I mean, in the area in the past some 20 years. Thank you.
Was rampant in China's westernmost region. Violent attacks were targeting civilians of all ethnic groups. Explosions were frequent in almost all parts of the Uyghur Autonomous Region. Xinjiang became a battlefield in China's fight against terrorism. According to incomplete statistics, thousands of terror attacks were launched in Xinjiang from 1990 to 2016. On October 28, 2013, an SUV ran through barricades in front of the gate tower and burst into flames. The attack killed 2 civilians and wounded over 40. The driver and the 2 passengers all died. The authorities soon declared the incident a terrorist attack.
We're watching a rare briefing from the Chinese ambassador here in Canberra. It is rare to take questions from all the members of the press gallery there, and they're currently watching a propaganda video from the Chinese government on the terror attacks by well, he was asked a question about Xinjiang and the Uyghur minorities. He's defended the Chinese treatment of that minority amid claims that 1 million have been held in camps and re-education camps and so on. Now this video is basically purporting to show the violence that that minority has allegedly carried out in China, and giving a context for this answer to our press gallery colleague Andrew Probyn. So an interesting response, not one you see every day, but I guess going to the Chinese Communist Party's approach to dealing with these matters and trying to, from their perspective, give a context as to why there's been a crackdown on that minority, which has been condemned not just in Australia but around the world. That detention of 1 million Uyghurs in the Xinjiang province has been condemned at the United Nations, right around the world, for its mistreatment of that minority. But as you can see from those quite graphic images there in the Chinese embassy here in Canberra, the Chinese embassy trying to give their version of the situation.
And what was really extraordinary was that they had that video ready to go. Look at this question. This is an unusual briefing to have in the embassy in Canberra at all, to be able to speak directly to the ambassador live and on the record. When that question came, it seemed like they were ready for it, and it was with that follow-up question from Andrew Probyn, as he said, that the video started to play. This has been a long-time discussion in China, that they say that the crackdown there is necessary. The kind of restrictions on freedom of movement for Uyghurs in Xinjiang is extraordinary, but it's really been escalated in the last few years with these pictures coming through mainly from satellites about these internment camps, re-education camps. The Chinese government says that they're training camps, that they're giving them skills to get into the workforce. Certainly there's much cause for concern, and there has been widely condemned around the world. But what's really interesting is this exact propaganda is what was used to crack down on social media in China. It was an attack around 2011 that saw them ban Facebook and build the Great Firewall. So this is right at the heart of so much of Chinese domestic policy, and they do not appreciate any kind of criticism on an international platform, as we can tell. This is really an interesting part of this briefing. I don't think either of us were expecting that.
No, it's very unusual, and you heard, though, the questions were asked. They anticipated the question on the Uyghur minority. The other question which was asked earlier in this news conference at the Chinese embassy was about Yang Hengjun, the Australian citizen and writer who has been detained. The Prime Minister has expressed his concern about the treatment of Yang in the most recent consular visit by Australian officials in Beijing, where they expressed concern about his treatment. That was played down by the ambassador. He says that he believes he's well. However, he did not resolve from the prosecution and detention of Yang Hengjun. He said that charges would be forthcoming and that his wife would be quote-unquote protected. So they're standing by that particular treatment of Yang Hengjun, an Australian citizen and writer, as we know, who is currently detained in Beijing, and the ambassador defending the treatment of that particular individual despite concerns from the Prime Minister and Foreign Minister. Let's have a listen in now to the ambassador and see how he wraps up on the Uyghur and Xinjiang issue.
Indeed, confronting ambassador, but can you explain why in confronting what you see and term terrorism, so many people have been locked up, and whether the people inside those camps, they look like camps, they've got walls, they look like they're locked. What justification do you have for the mass detention of people?
Well, I'm sorry you have drawn your own conclusion, which I think is out of touch, is totally, wrong, or totally,
The documents that were leaked to the New York Times.
What I have said,
officials
there
said
is
that they should
those
be
allegations about there is no, detention camps in Xinjiang, and there is no, as I said, what they are. I'm going to give you, further, briefing on that. As video shows, during the years from 1990 to 2016, several thousand violence or terrorist attacks occurred in Xinjiang mainly, and also other areas, instigated, by, the religious extremists or terrorists associated with international terrorism, including, the ETIM. And those attacks and violence have claim a large number of innocent people, and also, brought huge damage to the property, the fortune of the ordinary people, and seriously affected, the life, the peace, and security. This is something every country will take forceful actions, to fight against. So, the local government has taken tough measures to crack down on those terrorism or violence. At the same time, they have started to take measures to address the fundamental cause of those attacks. That includes to set up vocational training and education centers where people, aim at, deradicalization, to help people, to bring people, who are affected by those extremist ideology, and to get rid of those influence. At the same time, to learn vocational skills, the legal knowledge, and the standard Chinese language.
Is
so
that 1 million people going through de-radicalisation?
Well, I think the number of the trainees are dynamic, Some of them came in, some of them went out. As I understand, because of the efforts, those efforts, including this training and education centers, the efforts that made, there have been no single violence or terrorist cases in the past 3 years. And the spread of extremism has been effectively curbed. And the public security has been notably improved in Xinjiang, and people of all ethnic groups are able to live and work in peace.
How
So
many,
that's-
I go back
that-
again. How
that's-
many people
that's-
have gone through your
That's
training?
the major outcomes, results of the efforts to address, to eradicate radicalization. So what has been done in Xinjiang has no difference with what the other countries, including Western countries, to fight against terrorism. And it's part and parcel of international campaign against terrorism. What has been happened, what has been done there, has nothing to do with human rights, nothing to do with religion. It's about fighting terrorism and take preventive actions. To ensure the safety and security of the ordinary people, and to ensure the smooth development and prosperity of the region.
Will you invite an
And I
international
understand,
visiting group to...
I understand, now the trainees in the centers have all completed their studies, and they have, with the assistance of the government, the local government, they have, gradually or steadily found their jobs, improve their lives, and lead and have led a normal life. Thank you.
No, next is the Australian.
The Chinese ambassador continues on skynews.com.au/extra2, an extraordinary and rare news conference from him. He says that they've been combating terrorism in Xinjiang province. There hasn't been a terrorist attack for the last 3 years, and called the internment camps in that province, where about 1 million people are believed to be detained. He calls them training camps.